Welcome to the Liberace Mansion.
Welcome to Under the Vegas Sun, looking at the people, the events, and the news surrounding Las Vegas and the entire Vegas Valley. Hello, I'm Steve Schorr. We are live from the Liberace Mansion right here in Las Vegas. Young people today, they are facing so many different issues. But what really is there? What really can be done? On our program today, we're going to look deeply into those issues. Maybe some answers, hopefully some answers. You'll meet a group of people who are doing that each and every day, helping our young people. We'll get to that in just a few seconds. Stay with us. We'll be right back. The pressures of the world today. Sometimes we think about it personally, how it impacts us. But what we're seeing today, the pressures of the world, the stresses that we all face, are really impacting a very specific group of us. Teenagers. And because of that, a lot of situations are now occurring. How do they deal with it? What happens to them? The problems, the issues. On our program today, you'll meet two very, very special people dealing exactly with that. Their organization is called Destinations for Teens, but it's really about helping teens. Our very special guest, Ari Stark, who is the Vice President of Operations for Destinations, and Sasha DeCania, who is the Program Director. To both of you, welcome to our program.
Thank you.
As I just said, we all face pressures on a daily basis. We all face things that impact us. I personally believe that teenagers today face more pressures than were faced by my generation, by your generation. Are you feeling the same thing as you deal with teenagers and their issues? Do you see that the pressures and the stress are as great as I think they are?
Yeah, absolutely. There's the kids today and teens today really face the pressures that we faced, but they go home with them. Mm-hmm. We had an opportunity to get a break when we went home and to sit with our families. They take it home with them in social media. And that's a real thing for them. And we try to help them understand the balance between the world of social media and the real world we're in. And really from a therapeutic standpoint, having people like Sasha work with them directly to help them understand how to be more socially responsible with their social media and how to deal with the effects of the social media that are affecting them.
Is it true stress? Is it the way we as adults face stress? For us, we need to bring home an income. We need to take care of the family. We need to do. Is their stress as complex?
I think so. I think they are different stressors, but they experience them as we do, complexly, right? So children now, and the kids we deal with are generally between the ages of 12, 13, and 17, 18. Aside from social media and bringing home everybody's opinion about how you look, everybody's opinion about what you should do, everybody's opinion about who you are as a person, kids also are seeing what's going on socially. Children have always been aware of social things, whether that's war, whether that's poverty, whether that's unemployment, politics, and the kids we have now are certainly very aware of that, and they have easy access to it all day long.
Immediacy.
Immediacy.
When 1 October hit Las Vegas, it was immediate on social media. When 9/11 hit, it was immediate on social media. Mm-hmm. During our generation, when we faced the wars that we faced, it was not until the Gulf War that we saw that immediacy. So we were somewhat protected. Mm-hmm. I don't know if young people are protected anymore.
You know, I don't think they are. And I think it's very difficult for parents to keep up with how to protect them. You know, on one hand, parents want to keep kids safe. Let's give them a cell phone. Now I know where they are and they can call me and I can call them. And kids as young as, 6 years old have them. But what comes along with that phone is a very different responsibility. And lots of children are not prepared for that. And also, then they have this very easy access to a much larger world that their parent doesn't even know what they're seeing, right? Every child that I've worked with at Destinations, every single one has had some difficult experience through social media, technology, because there's no filter, there's no protection. And parents really struggle with how to protect their kids. And so there's not an easy answer. But I also think it's the magnitude of it.
But there's societal changes today.
Yes.
Society has changed dramatically from when I was a young person, when I was a teenager. Right? I mean, the biggest thing when I was a teenager is how fast could my car go and who was I was dating on Friday night. Today's young people are facing a plethora of issues that we not even thought about when we were that age.
Absolutely.
Right. And there isn't enough time to protect them. The immediacy is immediate. And so where back in the day there was some time to digest and wait for the dinner table, if you will,
Right.
or families typically congregated. Families are not always two-parent families. There's dual jobs in the household. People don't have time to get together and just connect on a human level. And so we can't even keep up by the time we leave the office until we get home to see our children. There could have been another event
And
that they've been
sometimes parents
exposed
are
to.
having 2 and 3 jobs. They might not see their children
Correct.
until the weekends or days at a time. And that has an impact on them, I would believe.
Certainly. And I mean, here in Las Vegas, where we have a lot of shift workers who work all different shifts, sometimes they're not seeing their child goes to school during the day, they work in the late afternoon or evening. They might not get to talk to or process anything with their child till 2-3 days later. They may not even know that their child knows this information.
There's a situation for adults. As we face stress in our lives, there are certain things that occur. Number of heart attacks increase. Diabetes increase because people consume more. There's a connection, some say, to the advent of cancer and more cancer because of the stress. Young people and the stress that is brought upon them create different things. I wrote a couple of statistics down. 50% of teens now admit that they've had some interaction with illicit drugs. 50%, 1 in 2. 35% of 12th graders admit that they've been drunk within the past month. 40% of 12th graders admit that they have had some form of illicit drug interaction within the previous month. Those are frightening statistics.
Yes,
They are, and that's from kids who are just reporting.
correct.
Who knows about the kids that are not reporting?
Right. I mean, there's been a number of children we've worked with who've come into treatment for primarily mental health. And then after we've worked with them, then they start telling us, oh, well, but sometimes I use this or sometimes I've tried that when I'm feeling stressed out. I'm like, oh, well, that's substance abuse, right? And they don't see it that way.
But it's interesting what you just said. Them saying to themselves, it's because I was stressed out.
Yes, or depressed or anxious or fearful. They're trying to deal with their mood and they don't have the tools to do that.
And as there are societal changes, I think that creates even more stresses. The increase in the LGBTQ community, the problems that those children, those young people, those teens are going through because of that. They might not even understand it themselves, but yet the stresses that their peers are putting on them can create even more stress.
Absolutely.
They're just trying to keep up with what they're seeing in the media. And if they see a personality come out, they want to emulate that person. They're proud of that person. And they think they need to do the same thing, coupled with the unavailability of a parent to provide guidance around it because the parent is working and having to provide for the family. Coupled with, on top of that, technology growing and getting faster than we can even keep up with.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you the toughest question that I'll probably ask you. Do they realize what is happening to them until it's too late? Do they know what's happening to them stressful, to them bodily, until it's too late?
I would say that kids generally don't understand their own bodies. And teenagers specifically are designed, by design, when we're teenagers, we push against the system to learn who we are.
Right.
But the things that are available today are so much more potent. I'm not sure the adults understand.
Yes, I would agree with
But
that.
a 12 and a 13-year-old is going through so much.
Yes.
Their body is changing. Their mental capacity is changing. So they're going through so much that the stress that's now pounding them, how do they realize what?
I think it's sort of double-edged. I think that on one hand, you're absolutely right. Like kids are teens especially are pushing. They're trying to discover who they are. They still are not fully cognizant of who they are. But the other side of it is they are cognizant of what's going on socially. They are cognizant that they're experiencing distress and they don't want to be distressed. They are cognizant if they don't fit in. They are cognizant if they see that the peer group around them doesn't accept them. They're cognizant of those pieces.
But they don't know what to do about it.
But then they don't know what to do about it. And then the emotional response they're having is so overwhelming. And sometimes they're just having a hard time labeling what that is.
Okay. We'll need a break for a couple of seconds.
Okay.
When we come back, I want to talk about this labeling, because I think that's the one thing that I think is so disastrous that we're doing to young people. I want to talk about that in just a couple of seconds. This is a situation that hopefully parents, grandparents listening to, because I think the message is so critically important today. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Hello, my name is Martin Ravenhill. I am the proprietor, owner of the Liberace Mansion, and I welcome you and invite you to explore all of the incredible features we have available at this historic house. Liberace lived here from 1974 until his death in 1987. Since then, I've been able to remodel and restore this house to its former glory. Here we have 15,000 square feet of amazing historic space available for weddings, ceremonies, corporate events, and charity fundraisers. The Liberace Mansion. There is no place like it in the world.
Probably some of the toughest things that you can do to anybody, but to teens, labels can be disastrous, I would think. A very special guest on the program once again from Destinations for Teens, and they're very much involved in it, Ari Stark and Sasha DeCania. Welcome back to our program. Okay. I'll share that I didn't share, I don't think, ever before. When I was a youngster, I had a father that didn't really care about me. Told me I was a bum, I would always be a bum. Labeled me as such. Because of that, I became a bully. And I was a bully for a long time until I learned that that label was not what I needed to be or what I should be. And I changed my life around. Labels, especially on young people, are disastrous, I would think. But we see labels being portrayed against young people day after day after day. Am I right?
I think so.
I would say that, again, back in the day, you had the opportunity to change your behavior and throw off a label.
Right.
Once that label sticks to you and hits the internet and social media, you'd be hard-pressed to get away from that label. And negative labels stick harder than positive ones do.
How many positive labels do we see today? Not many.
Not many.
Negative labels are there.
Yeah.
You know, I think for young people too, young people are very concerned with who they are. And so sometimes when a label is presented, they're very quick to hold on to it, similar to what you just described, right? You held on to that label. You didn't reject that. It was your father who told you that. So
I believed it.
That's right.
I believed it.
Exactly, and that's what young people do. And so it can be difficult to change that. I mean, you were able to do that, and that's amazing. I appreciate that you shared that because it's what our kids experience now. If they get labeled as, you know, the bad girl at school or the bully or all of those things, it's hard for them to shake that off and make change.
Because it's there.
Because it's there.
It's right in front of them. It's on that device that they're carrying in their pocket.
That's right. And sometimes they work very hard to own that. Right. Well, I'm the kid with mental health issues, or you know, I'm the kid who uses, or I'm the kid who, you know, beats up other kids, or whatever that is. Sometimes they'll be like, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to really embrace that then. I'm just going to hold on to that. And so part of the work that we do is to help them kind of separate themselves from all of those constructs that have been put on them, and help them to figure out, like, hey, you're in the process of becoming, you know, more of a full person. You're not there yet.
But we have moms and dads and grandparents that are watching right now that conceivably know that their teen, that their child, that their grandchild has a label on them. They've probably heard it. They've probably seen the tears that often goes with it.
Yeah.
What do they do?
I think it's really important for parents to reach out. They can start with their pediatrician and talk about what they can do.
Right.
It could be as simple as changing a kid's class. It could be a simple conversation. And it could be drastic. But how do we know? We spend all of their early life as infants protecting them. You put them in a car seat. We put those little plugs in the outlets. We do everything to protect them. And when they get to school, all of us as parents, we feel some sort of difficulty in advocating for our child and asking for help.
Right.
I mean, you've been, Sasha, you've been a family counselor, child and family counselor for a long time.
15 plus years, yeah.
How do you talk to parents? What do you say to parents who have thrown their arms up in the air and go, I can't deal with this. I can't deal with this.
So first thing, you know, I want to show compassion, because first, I am also a parent, and parents can't always solve everything for their child. That's why they have to reach out for help. And there's no shame in doing that. And the second thing is to really hear where they're coming from, and to help them try to see their child's situation with new eyes. I can do that because I'm not there with them every day, right? We have a young person with us right now who's really struggled with her family and has been in a residential facility for a very long time and is only recently home. And so, you know, she had a misstep, a little bit of a relapse in some behavior that they've been trying to work through with her. And parents felt very frustrated.
And the arms went back up in the air.
Yeah, the arms went back up. And we said, but wait a minute, this time she told you. You didn't have to find out. She came to you first and she told you what she did, exactly what she did. And mom sat back and she's like, that's an improvement. And so I said, okay, so there has to be a consequence, but then how do you tell your child, hey, I'm really proud of you, that now we have that communication?
You hit it.
That's right.
There's two words that I believe that we don't say enough as parents. We don't say it enough. And that's pride and proud. And those are two very, very powerful words.
They are.
You can give me any child and give me that child for a few weeks, and I'll tell that child every day, You're bad. You're terrible. You're bad. You're terrible. You're not worth anything. You're a bum, myself included.
Right.
And you know what happens after that period of time? The child believes that they're bad, they're terrible, they are a bum. You give me a same child and give me 2 weeks to tell that child how proud I am, how wonderful they are, how good they are, that I have pride in who they are.
That's right.
And all of a sudden the child begins to believe it again.
Right.
Yeah.
But what you're describing as well is an engagement with the child.
That's right.
It's not so much the words, while they are very important.
Certainly.
It's a parental and family engagement. And that's, I think, the critical key. No matter the family structure,
Right.
engage with the child.
That's right.
Understand what the difference is between normal and abnormal behavior.
But there's also a point where the parents and grandparents both, have to believe that the stresses that those children are undergoing today are real.
Yes.
They're as real as a parent coming home and saying, I don't have a job anymore. What am I going to do? It's as real to that child of the stress that they're under from their peers for various different reasons.
Correct.
It's acknowledging that that child's feelings are real, right? So whatever the stressor is, whether we understand it or not, if they're experiencing such a real feeling, it is real for them. We can't and should not contest that. And so to acknowledge the child and to embrace them and say, you know what, I see that you're suffering because of this. Whether or not you agree that they should is irrelevant, but that they are suffering and that we're here to help you get past that suffering.
And it is a help. It's not something that's going to automatically overnight disappear.
That's right.
It is a long-term process. It's no different than an adult being hooked on some form of situation, whether it be alcohol or drugs or gambling. It's a long-term situation that you're dealing with. It's not going to be erased overnight.
That's right.
No.
Certainly not as the pressures increase.
Yeah.
It's not going to solve. The pressures will continue.
They will continue. They're not going away.
When we speak to groups, student groups, and we have a moment with them without any teachers in the room, the one thing they tell us is they just want their parents to hear them and to listen.
Hear them.
Hear them, listen, and just acknowledge them.
Yeah.
And I'm not blaming the parent.
Not at all.
It's a busy time.
It is a busy time.
For everybody. And I think for most parents, it is painful to watch their children struggle and suffer. And if they cannot help them with that, it's even more painful. You know, when I tell parents this, I tell all parents this, like, look, when your kid was little and they were, you want a cookie? Okay, here's a Band-Aid. Let me hug you. Let's watch a show. It was easy. Now that they're bigger, the cookie doesn't help. The Band-Aid isn't what they need. And they might need a little more. And that's okay. Let us help you figure what that is.
It's the same thing that when a child comes home from school with an A or a star on their paper, it went right on the refrigerator. Right. Today, a teenager comes home with some form of success, and where does it go? No place.
Yeah, and for some kids, a C is their success.
Without a doubt. Not everybody's an AP student.
Absolutely. Right. And I think there's sort of the social view that we all have. I mean, kids feel so much pressure to succeed academically so they can make it to college because I need a job and it's hard to get jobs. Kids feel that. You know, we see it as parents, but the children I work with see that and feel it very keenly.
This discussion is very, very important. We haven't even got into destinations for teens. This is very important because I think it's critical right now for our community, for many communities around the country. Would you do me a favor? Would you come back again for a second show? I want to talk more about Destination for Teens. I want to talk about more of the issues, and I want to talk about one critical point, and that is today, the earlier that young people become involved in drugs, in alcohol, the greater propensity for them to become addicted. And I don't think we're talking about that as much as we should. So if you could come back, I would really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
It's a very important topic.
This is very important, and I don't think there's any better time to talk about this than right now. So I'm going to come back with some closing words, and I promise you next week on the program, we'll talk more, and hopefully we as parents will learn more and more. I'll be right back. Stay with us.
Hey, it's Mark Chinook from Monday's Dark, and you are watching Under the Vegas Sun with Steve Schorr.
You know, I think it is so critical of what is happening with our young people, and I think it's important to get to the answers if we possibly can. So I'm thrilled that we're going to continue this discussion next week on our program, because I think the insights that we gain can indeed make a difference. Until the next time, I'm Steve Schorr. Be safe and enjoy life under the Vegas sun.